Deltarune chapters 3, 4, and 5 are slowly getting closer, so we as gamers get to partake in our favorite pastime, a sociopathic amount of speculation. I asked you all in a community post what your Deltarune theories were gonna be, and here were your responses. Darkners can be spawned from someone's mind, as in Ralsei is spawned from Chris's love for Asriel, and can go to any dark world they're in. Chris is Ralsei's fountain. I have thought about this a lot because Chris's horns in chapter 1, the red horns, that Ralsei also has red horns, so I know for a fact that Ralsei and Chris have to be linked somehow. As far as Chris is Ralsei's dark fountain, that's a new one for me. I haven't heard that one before. I have thought of the theory that, like, you know, when we meet Ralsei for the first time, there's a dark fountain in their kingdom, but there's barely anything in that kingdom, which just raises a lot of red flags. Like, they're a prince, but no one's in the kingdom. Meanwhile, all the way at Card Castle, there's an established history. There are kings that were once there that are now in prison, and then there was a jester that went insane. What I'm trying to get at is, like, what makes you think that the Card Castle Dark Fountain was the original Dark Fountain, and Ralsei's wasn't the new one? Like, who's to say Ralsei's was the one we had to protect? I mean, I'm not saying Ralsei is evil. I'm just saying there's like a lot of things up in the air about Ralsei that I'm still unsure about. So there is room to also doubt them, if that makes any sense. I'm not saying Ralsei is evil. I'm kind of confident we'll see this theory at some point. The Dark Fountains are somehow a vital part to a ritual to summoning something to be seen in the final chapter. I also have some connections of a dagger called a Chris, like Chris is named. What? There's a dagger called a Chris? Hold up. Oh shit! It's an Indonesian weapon called a Chris. What? Or a Kiris. I never knew that. What? The dagger in question is used for rituals, as in a person stabbing themselves like what they see in Deltarune. I would try to explain in one post, but sadly it would take too long. I think the I feel like there is a balance between like light and darkness as explained in like the legend of Deltarune. If there's too much darkness, it'll throw off the balance. If there's too much light, it'll throw off the balance. But I don't know if it's a part of a ritual. I feel like there are just people who are like, hey, I want to put a dark fountain right here. You can't do that. Well, fuck you, I'm doing it anyway. I have a feeling Sean may end up becoming a secret boss in one of the later chapters. Given he's in close proximity to the shadow crystals and his relation with Jevil, it makes the most sense to me. Though if he is to become a secret boss, something tells me he'll only be fought after collecting a certain number of shadow crystals prior or something else. That would be kind of cool, because we don't exactly know what he's made of. By that logic, we also don't know what Swatch is made of. Like, who's to say Swatch can't also be a secret boss? I would like to see what a Sham fight would look like, but I've never entertained the idea all that much. That's very interesting. I'm gonna go with a safe pick and say that the secret boss in chapter 3 will become a meme. I mean, my most outlandish theory is that as more chapters release, more and more aspects of Undertale's gameplay will be integrated. Chapter 1 had one set route, Chapter 2 had a genocide route with Snowgrave, Chapter 3 might introduce determination. My craziest theory is that Ralsei is the BBEG. I do not trust Ralsei one bit. And there it is, there's the theory. I knew this was gonna pop up at some point, but let's dissect the second one that you just said. I really don't know how much of Undertale is going to become a part of Deltarune, because I feel like Deltarune's becoming very much its own thing. I feel like Deltarune Chapter 2 had such a distinctive difference in personality as opposed to Undertale. But I do see what you mean. Like, yeah, they got a genocide route back. That wasn't there in Chapter 1. I don't know how much more of Undertale is going to be borrowed back into this. I feel like I'm more comfortable with Deltarune being its own thing. And I mean, like, listen, I know there's a lot of ambiguity with Ralsei, and I'm gonna play the devil's advocate here. I'm not saying that Ralsei isn't inadvertently doing something evil. Like, I think Ralsei is a good guy. I don't think they're evil. But there's still just so much we don't know about them that they could clear up, but they haven't cleared up, like how they can exist outside their normal dark world, who they are, why their castle was so empty, and like, there's still so much room for interpretation as to who they are that they haven't clarified yet. It's just my speculation. I'm not ruling out entirely that Ralsei can be trusted 100%, but at the same time, I think they're I think they're not trying to harm us purposefully. Ralsei isn't evil, he just has social anxiety being alone all his life. He's just a little scrunkly. I mean, you look at this little thing. This little thing wants to kill me? He gets bullied by butterflies. How is he evil? There it is again. I doubt that Ralsei is evil, but he's definitely hiding something. There we go. We got the Goldilocks zone of theories. This is what I'm saying. Ralsei is probably a good person, but there's a lot that they're hiding. I can't rule out that there's something underneath Ralsei that they're not telling us. Like, I agree with this 100%. I think it'd be really funny if Gaster showed up like a normal NPC and was never mentioned again. Just imagine. You are underestimating how deeply this freaking community will look into things. They are gonna write essays worth of detail over why Gaster was standing in this one specific spot. People in this community are bat crazy. One headcanon of mine is that Ralsei is not tied to any item in any Dark World, but rather, he's the Dark World manifestation of Chris's memories of Asriel. That would be kind of interesting if Ralsei this entire time were memories of Asriel, because for me, I think Ralsei is a manifestation of who Chris wanted to be. Chris having those red horns are also on Ralsei. He's the only human in a monster town with a monster family. So in my mind, I think Ralsei is a projection of who Chris wanted to be in his time growing up with Asriel. Yeah, that would be cool if they were also memories of Asriel. That Chris is the knight. Ooh, okay. I've had some feelings about this one. I am in the camp that they're not, and I'll explain why. So like in the Undertale 6th anniversary live stream where they announced Deltarune Chapter 2 and gave some like Deltarune tidbits, there was a song Toby showed off that was supposed to be like an animated intro to Deltarune, where Chris was running up a staircase and all the bosses throughout the chapters were gonna be there as they were going up with the knight at the very top. Now, that to me says that Toby planned from the beginning for these two to be separate, and I feel like with what's happening in Deltarune, Toby wants us to believe that Chris is the knight. I feel like that's what he's trying to say, but I don't think Chris really is. I just don't buy the theory, in my personal opinion. Now, is that staircase analogy like able to be thrown out as evidence? Of course it can. It was a concept, and concepts can be changed and rearranged all the time. And who's to say that the knight at the top of the staircase isn't metaphorical? Like, the knight and Chris can be the same person, but two distinct things in that sort of vein, like a metaphor. But I have my preservations about Chris being the knight. Susie will become the healer, and Ralsei will become the attacker as the characters progress.
Susie, look! It heals in reverse!
The data from your finished vessel is saved in your game files, just like I said. This leads me to believe that we, the soul, are going to split off from Chris at some point and enter our vessel, presumably in a chapter where we meet Gaster. Exactly, this is what I'm thinking. It would be really cool if our discarded vessel came back. Although it would go against the game's thing of like, we don't have control over our choices. But, you know, we've seen that we very much do have control over our choices in Chapter 2 in spades. So maybe that attitude in Chapter 1 slowly dissipates, and maybe the choices we make really do start to matter more and more. I mean, this is Toby Fox we're talking about. This dude made a game where the most minute details were taken into account and then judged. So it would not surprise me if we would get our vessel back, if some of our actions did come back to bite us in the butt. I would like to see that. Papyrus is a big D&D nerd. Sans wants him to have friends to play with him while he throws puzzles at players. The sounds of bones moving away is him getting more lonely and him trying to make his first session perfect. But that's more headcanon than theory, to be honest.
Sans, where is the Baldur's Gate?
Rules card is much more powerful than we think. I've sat on this theory too. We've never faced his actual magic, and he is the rules card. Can he change the rules of this universe? Now, this is a huge theory I've been keeping in the back of my head for a while now, because literally the entire point of Deltarune that we heard from Chapter 1 is that our decisions don't matter. So who would make a better antagonist than the dude who can change the rules? I feel like Rules Card is playing dumb. Like, this is my big game theory. I feel like Rules Card is lulling us into believing that they are much stupider than they really are. I feel like they are truly the mastermind behind it all. Because think about it for a second. We were introduced to them in like chapter 1 when they were part of like Card Castle. What point did they have coming to chapter 2? Like, yeah, I mean, they were comic relief, but did he really even need to follow us? And like, wherever we go, he's looking for some evil henchman to serve next to. Who's to say that he's gonna get fed up trying to serve someone and be like, screw you all, I'm going to be the bad guy? I think it would be like a big like BioShock plot twist if he like just dropped the fake Shakespearean accent and then he got his own like little text noise that we heard in chapter 2. That would be crazy. Like, I'm holding out on my suspicions that Rules Card is much more dangerous than we realize, which will make this theory way more funnier when he turns out to just be a complete goofball this entire time, and I've just been theorizing way too much. But hey, sociopathic amount of speculation, am I right? I don't know about anyone else, but I bet Moss is super important to the future chapters. There is like a message that we're not getting. It's a message about the circle of life and how we are just feeding into this constant ecological cycle of smaller things being eaten by bigger things, and then more bigger things eating the smaller things. It's all connected. We begin with Moss, and then it's Chris, and then it's some boss monster, and then it's the Titans. Who knows how far this goes? I think Moss is going to be the key to unlocking everything in Deltarune. But hey, that's just a theory. A game theory! Anyway, those were your Deltarune theories. Let me know what you think in the comments below about what you're hyperfixated on. And I will see you in the next one. Bye.